Hello everyone, I'm Keen47, aka Wolfkeen, and welcome to another edition of My Little Pony Vlogs for Season 2. Today, I am talking about It's About Time, written by M.A. Larson. Best Writer strikes again! This is a really good episode. It's About Time has a lot of concepts that I really do like, and this is given way to some of the craziest fan fictions of all time, especially the Dr. Hoof's fan fiction in some cases, but I'm not into that kind of stuff. I'm just here to talk about the episode. So, let's do it. The episode starts with basically...
I made it for you, Rarity. Why, yes, it is an ice cream house.
And I thought I had weird dreams. But anyways, Spike wakes up from the dream, and basically Twilight is pacing around because, well, she's having, in her mind, an existential crisis because she scheduled her month this month, but she forgot to leave time for her to schedule next month. That's our Twilight, everybody! So, basically, we go to the next scene where Twilight actually finds a way so she can actually have some scheduling time so she can get to work on scheduling for next month. And then she is greeted by... Well, you already saw at the beginning of the video where we see like this Twilight that comes out of nowhere wearing a bandana, an eye patch, and other stuff like that. And yes, there are multiple references being made here, which I made at the beginning of my video, as you could probably tell. And Twilight, future Twilight is trying to tell current Twilight about an existential crisis that's going to happen in the near future. Though, of course, you know, Twilight is not listening to her. She keeps asking questions and stuff like that. And then, of course, she drops, well, this line right here.
Is there some sort of epic pony war in the distant future or something?
Need I say more? So anyways, she didn't let future Twilight get a word in, and she disappears back to the, you know, the time where she's from. So this puts Twilight in a bit of a haywire thing, because now she's trying to figure out what is this event that future Twilight was talking about. So she begins trying to tell the citizens of Ponyville that something is about to happen, so they try to future-proof Ponyville by future-proof Equestria, basically, by basically trying to fix all of the problems that are going on around Ponyville and other stuff like that. And apparently they all, you know, they went around all over Equestria trying to make sure that nothing could go wrong, from Manhattan to Las Vegas and yada, yada, yada. But then, all of a sudden, freaking, Cerberus. I'm not kidding, guys. Cerberus enters Ponyville. And Twilight even says that Cerberus is supposed to be guarding the gates of Tartarus. This isn't a bad facepalm, guys. I'm just like, huh? I don't get it. I really don't get it. So Twilight ends up leading Cerberus back to Tartarus thanks to a ball that Pinkie Pie had in one of the trees. And it doesn't look like anything drastic happens. So what happens at one point is that Spike, you know how like he gets letters by barfing them out? He gets a letter and it smacks Twilight in the face, causing her to get a cut on her cheek. The same location and cut that future Twilight got in. So what she decides to do is that she feels like, you know, doing everything... Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. The video recording died on me. So Twilight figures out that if doing everything to stop this, like, disaster from happening didn't help, then maybe doing nothing will prevent the disaster from happening. So she basically decides to just stand in one location and do absolutely freaking nothing. And I mean literally do nothing. All she's doing is just standing there like this, like, doing nothing. And then, of course, Spike decides to take advantage of this and eat as much ice cream as he can. So, of course, Spike is met with Rainbow Dash at one point where she's actually, like, laughing at this fact that Twilight is trying to do nothing. And both Spike and Rainbow Dash decide to play a little bit of a joke with her. Until at one point, Twilight actually grabs Spike using her magic and throws him to the point where he barfs a fireball and it hits Twilight right in her mane, causing her mane to get singed. Which is, of course, the other quality of future Twilight. So then Spike has this idea of taking Twilight to see Madam Picamina. Of course, it's Pinkie Pie, but, you know. So she takes her to see Madam Picamina and try to see if she could tell the future for Twilight. Where she says, like, you will have a really good birthday present in a couple of months. And that's it. And then Twilight tried to say, like, no, I need your pinky sense to help me out. It's like, Twilight, I can, like, the pinky sense only works for vague and immediate events. And, of course, something vague and immediate happens to Twilight as a flower pot drops on her head. Convenient. So what happens next is that Pinkie Pie goes to visit Twilight after a few days have passed, and Twilight has pretty much entered Looney Town at this point. I mean, seriously. She hasn't slept in the last few days, and she's trying to monitor everything she can to try to figure out what the disaster will do. And it's kind of causing, like, I'm sorry to say, but the way Twilight is acting in this episode is funny as hell. And it's kind of funny to see her, tip into madness again, because after Lesson 0, I love Lesson 0 because of the degree of madness that she goes into. But right here is where she absolutely, descends further into madness. So at one point, Twilight looks through her telescope and then gets singed by the freaking sun because of the telescope. And then Pinkie Pie pulls on an eye patch for Twilight, which, of course, another sign of future Twilight. So, of course, Twilight has this idea. If trying to do everything didn't stop it, if trying to do nothing didn't stop it, and if trying to monitor everything didn't stop it, then there's only one logical solution. Stop time. Now, I did not explain this earlier on in the vlog, but let me say this. Twilight actually says that, future Twilight actually says that the reason how she got the time spell is because of these, the time spell is in the Star Swirl, the Bearded Wing in the Canterlot Library. So Twilight has the idea of going to the Canterlot Library to get the time spell. So she heads to the Canterlot Library with Pinkie Pie, Spike, and, Pinkie Pie and Spike. And we get a bunch of scenes which, yes, guys, I know, it's very reminiscent of Metal Gear Solid. What do you think the joke was at the beginning? I'm just saying, what do you think the joke was at the beginning? So we see Twilight, Spike, and Pinkie going through the library, going through the Canterlot Castle until they make it to the same spot they were, and that's where the freaking library was, right when they climbed in through the window. A guard comes, and Twilight pretty much doesn't know what to do, but of course the guard's like, oh, hey there, Twilight, I haven't seen you in a while. Here, let me get that for you. You used to live here! So, of course, Twilight begins searching around. Twilight, Pinkie Pie, and Spike begin searching around to see if they can find a scroll of, a time stop spell. And, of course, they do not find it whatsoever. The sun comes out on the final day. A week has passed, and nothing happens. And at this point, Twilight is seeing, the full effects for her. Her outfit is messed up. Her hair, her mane is singed. She has a bandana on, eye patch, and everything. But then she begins saying, wait a minute. Was I just overreacting over nothing? And she even says, you know what? I look ridiculous. And so Pinkie Pie actually does find a spell for Twilight. While it can't stop time, it allows Twilight to go back in time. And, of course, we pretty much reset the events of the entire episode where she goes back in time to try to tell her past self what not to do. And, of course, it doesn't work. Though, of course, Pinkie Pie pretty much says it Twilight's like, oh, I'm an idiot. I couldn't even get a single word out. And he's like, now my past self is going to be worrying about an event that's never going to come. And Pinkie Pie says, don't worry about it. It's past Twilight's problem now. Here's one thing I like about this episode. Each of the characters have a certain degree of how they handle time. Well, at least in some cases, like a lifestyle that they handle events. Twilight tries to figure out, Twilight with events, she tries to find an answer to them. If she can't find an answer, she's going to worry about them. As for Spike, he doesn't worry about problems that could happen later, which have repercussions later. Like I said, he kept eating ice cream throughout the entire episode, and now at the end of the episode, he has a very bad stomachache. And then you have Pinkie Pie, who has a very healthy way of looking at life. Because if you think about it, she doesn't care about future events or anything like that. She cares about the here and now, which I kind of like. That shows that there's 3 different lifestyles that they live by. Twilight tries to figure out what could happen, try to control what's in front of her, while Spike doesn't really care about future repercussions. And then you have Pinky, who just takes it one day at a time. That's actually a pretty good formula between the characters. If you really think about it, that's actually a pretty good formula between each of the characters, that they all have a different way of approaching life and time. I like that. And the moral itself, like, we didn't really get a moral in this episode, just the idea of don't take things too far. Like, don't blow things out of proportion, and don't worry about so many things so much. That's kind of like the idea that they gave us, where, like, the reason why all of this happened to Twilight is because she let her fears get the best of her. And that's kind of the moral they try to teach us. Like, don't obsess over everything. That's what Pinkie Pie is doing. Pinkie Pie doesn't obsess over everything. She just obsesses with what's going on today. And that's what It's About Time does. And I like that. I like the way that they show that these three characters have different ways of, different lifestyle approaches. Which is pretty good, if you really ask my honest opinion. So overall, I like this episode. This is a really, really good episode, and there isn't a lot to talk about with this episode, because there really isn't a lot to talk about with this episode, but it's a great episode to watch nevertheless. So, I check it out. Like, if you're new to the show, I definitely check this episode out. Alright, guys, till next time, I'm Keen47, aka Wolfkeen. Hope you enjoyed, and until next time, guys, take care.